In this capacity as a natural history scientist, I've spent a lot of time searching for pristine and undisturbed habitats in nature. These are the places, these pristine habitats, that usually support the highest numbers of species with the largest percentage of previously unknown and undescribed organisms, including the oceans. These are the places where the diversity of life and the complexity of nature actually come together. The most significant challenge during these decades of my travel around the world, especially in tropical lands, has been locating and working in these undisturbed habitats. When I started as a student at Harvard, these places were plentiful. Hard to believe. I could fly to Panama, I could fly to Colombia, I could fly to the Amazon, then hike or drive to the end of a short road and start collecting plants, many of which would prove to be new to science, and I've named many. Over the years, though, these roads got longer and longer, and the pristine habitats became harder and harder to find. Today, these places, these undisturbed places, are not plentiful by any means. I've watched on almost every continent the transition of the natural world from intact environments to degraded landscapes. And time now grows short for fully documenting biodiversity as the sixth extinction unfolds before our very eyes. For me, the challenge is therefore not only place, but also time. Finding those places where nature still exists, somewhat intact, so we can complete an inventory of life on the planet, but also finding the little time that remains to explore, to understand, and to protect nature while it still thrives. One of the most startling transitions that I have observed also is not just the changes in habitats where biodiversity is found, but also changes in how natural history science is conducted. So this is the process of discovering and describing new species. The professors and grad students and postdocs that I hung around with at Harvard could not wait to get into the field to see nature in situ, to see biodiversity in action, to find plants that were unknown to science, and to learn more how those plants evolved in their natural habitats. One of the most engaging aspects of these travels, again, primarily in the tropics, was learning how local people also interacted with biodiversity, how they found the plants, how they used the plants, how they named the plants, and how they respected the plants. All of this field work required a lot of planning and a lot of time away. We would bring back our specimens to the museum, sometimes grow them in the greenhouses, process them, and at the same time share what we were finding with our colleagues in the countries where we had traveled. Being in the field was paramount. Not so today. Today, graduate students and professors and even museum curators like myself devote the vast majority of our time in the lab, not in the field. Several decades ago, we entered the era of exploring biodiversity, not by observations in the field, but by sequencing DNA in the lab. As Ed Wilson once told me, we have become, quote, infatuated with the macromolecule, unquote. We now spend our time grinding up tissue and sequencing DNA for lengthy comparative analysis that we run on supercomputers. I admit that I have been smitten by this infatuation with DNA as well. I spent a good chunk of my time and career developing a tool called DNA barcoding to identify species by their DNA sequences rather than by their morphological characteristics. And now we are generating entire genomes of species as part of the Earth Biogenome Project, so that we'll have a complete DNA blueprint of all species on the planet. Genomic information certainly does help us to understand species and how nature works. There's no question in my mind about that. But spending so much time in the lab separates us as scientists and as citizens from experiencing nature directly where it lives. It is very possible that we will not have the time nor be able to get to the places to find out more about biodiversity before much of it is gone. Two biggest challenges for me have been time and place. I'm not sure if this is going to change in the near future.